Hello, Dragons. This is a quick lesson over the 357 method. This is primarily taught whenever you see the words simplify, equivalent, or same. You might also see same as. We're going to be dealing with radicals, also known as square roots and roots, and we'll also be dealing with exponents. Now, some of you know your exponent rules. If you know how to do those using your exponent rules, God bless you. Go ahead and use that. This is primarily a test-taking strategy, and we're just basically going to match the question with the right answer. So here we go. This is an example of what you will see on problems 1 through 5 on your practice worksheet that you picked up when you came into the classroom. So what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to do the square root keystroke. And over here I tell you that the square root keystroke is second x squared. So we're going to look over here. We got the second blue button, and then we're going to do x squared, and we've got this square root symbol. Great. So now we're going to type in the problem just like we see it. As we go over here, we see a 2. Now, however, you notice that in the problem, the 2 stops. The square root stops right after the 2. So I need to tell the calculator that I'm through with this first square root of 2. And right there, you see that little arrow to the right? That's telling the calculator that if I keep on typing, I'm going to keep that square root, but I want to stop it. Anytime you want to stop the square root, you need to arrow right. Also, you're going to hear me say tab right or tab out. So if I go over here to the right and tab it, you notice that it now cut off that square root just like the problem. Because now I need to type in parentheses. So I type in parentheses. I need another square root symbol. So I'll go over here. I'll do second x squared. There's another square root symbol. I type in another 2. But I need to end that square root, so I will tab out of it. And then I'll do a plus. And I need a 3 multiplied by the square root of 6, so I just need a square root squished right next to it. And I have a 6, and I need to tab out of this because that square root ends at the 6. And then I need to close the parentheses. Now look at my calculator, look at the original problem. It is exactly like each other. So if you have one long square root going across the problem and you don't tab out, you don't cut this square root off here, this square root off here, and this square root off right here, you're going to get something different and be very frustrated. I don't want that to happen. So this is about 12.392 blah, blah, blah. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play matchy-matchy. I'm going to now look at problem or answer choice A, and I'm going to type it in just like I see it. 2 plus 6 times the square root of 3, and tab out of that. Notice that my answer on my calculator looks exactly like answer choice A. I say, oh my goodness, there's it. But I want you to check all your answers because they may throw you a curveball here. So I'm going to check B. So I've got 4 plus 6 times the square root of 3. Tab out of that. Okay, so we know it's not B because it's not the same number as 12.392. So let's check C. I've got 2 plus 3 times the square root of 12. Tab out of that. Uh-oh, looky there. I've got 2 matchy-matchies to the original problem. Go ahead and check D. You'll see that one doesn't work. All right? So the question becomes, now take a look at this. Which one of these do I pick? They're both equal to the original problem. All right, so that leads us to filling in this. If you have 2 answers, like I do up here, that are equal to the original problem, check, that's what I got up here. Choose the one with the smaller square root. So let's go back and let's look at our square roots. This one had a square root of 3, and this one had a square root of 12. It said to simplify. The simplified one is the one that has the smaller square root, which would be this one right here. So our answer is going to be A. Okay? So these will work just like problems 1 through 5. You type it in, you check all of them, make sure there are no duplicate answers that are the same. And if you do have them, pick the one with the smaller exponent. So now let's go to the 3-5-7 method. Let's talk a little bit about that. Again, a test-taking strategy. Now, I'm going to give you a super hint. Simplified answers never have negative exponents. Now, if we look at this example down here, all right, here's the problem we're asked to simplify. It looks like a monster, like what's going on here? Alphabet soup meets numerical chaos. If we take a look at our answer choices, I've got two answers, B and C, that have something raised to a negative exponent. I'm going to tell you right now, if you look at that right there and you remember this super hint, you can cross out B and C right now, because simplified answers never have a negative exponent in the answer. Now remember, this is not the answer. This is the question. But take a look at answer choice A. All of my exponents are positive, and in D, all my exponents are positive. So I'm good. So let me show you how the 3-5-7 method works. 3-5-7 is, what we're going to do is we're going to replace the unknown, all of these x's that I don't know what they're equal to, with things that I do know. And what we're going to do is we're going to go with prime odds. That would be 3-5-7. Oh, that's why we call it the 3-5-7 method. So what we're going to do in this example right here, and this is what I want you to do on every problem. If you see something like this, I want you to put a set of parentheses for every variable. So I have a parentheses for x, for y, and for z, both in the top of this fraction and on the bottom. So I'm going to use 3 everywhere I see my first variable, which is x. So I'm going to make x to the 1/2 be 3 to the 1/2 power. I'm going to make x to the 1/8 be 3 to the 1/8. So everywhere I see an x, I'm going to put a 3. And then my next variable is y. I'm going to put a 5 in for y to the 3/4 becomes 5 to the 3/4. And y to the -2 becomes 5 to the -2. And then if I have another unknown like z, I'm going to put in a 7. Z to the -4 becomes 7 to the -4. Z to the -8 becomes 7 to the -8. Okay? So take a look. The original one has unknown variables. And now I've just got a whole bunch of numbers, and I know each and every one of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy right here, I'm going to throw it in my calculator, and I'm going to get some type of number that I'm going to write down, and then I'm going to play matchy-matchy down here with A and D. Again, everywhere I see an X, I'm going to put a 3. Everywhere I see a Y, I'm going to put a 5. Everywhere I see a Z, I'm going to put a 7. 3-5-7. Same thing on D. Everywhere I see an X, I'm going to put a 5. Everything you see a Y, excuse me, 3. What was I thinking? It's a 3. It's a 5. It's a 7. That's why you should use a pencil. It's a 3. 3. 3-5-7. Okay? Now, calculator hint. Alpha y equals. Alpha y equals. Alpha is green, and then y equals. Now, we want to make a fraction, so alpha y equals enter. Now, you notice I have a fraction. Yes, I'm going to put this guy, all of this top part, into the top part of my fraction. So I'm going to cover up the bottom so it's very clear. And I'm going to make my calculator look like my paper. And try to get the glare off this thing. All right, here I go. And I type exactly like I see this. 12, parentheses, 3, close parentheses, raised to an exponent. So I'm going to use my little rooftop. I'm going to do 1 divided by 2. 1 divided by 2. I'm finished with my exponent, so I need to tab right. And now I have a parentheses 5. Oops. parentheses 5, close parentheses. I now have an exponent up here of 3/4, so raise that to the 3 divided by 4. I'm finished with that exponent, so tab out of it. And then I'm going to do parentheses 7. And I'm going to raise that to the negative 4th power. And I'm going to tab out of that. Now take a look at my calculator. Okay. And did I get that last one in there? Let me double check. And let me delete that and just go back one more. And double check. Did I do the rooftop? I don't know if I did the rooftop or exponent negative 4. I didn't. Okay, so make sure. And now look at your calculator and look at your paper. Is it identical? It is. So I'm going to arrow down. I'm now in my denominator, so now I'm going to type in the bottom just like I see it. Okay? So here I go. 4 parentheses 3 close parentheses raised to the 1/8 power. So rooftop 1 divided by 8. I'm finished with that exponent, so tab right. Next thing, parentheses 5. Exponent, make sure you have an exponent, negative 2. I'm finished with that exponent, so tab out of it. Parentheses 7. Exponent, negative 8. Tab out. Take a look at this. Does it look exactly like my paper? If it is, go ahead and press enter, and now we have a number. Write it down, 909078.5221 if you want to be exact. Okay? So now we're going to play matchy-matchy. We've already eliminated these. If all my answers had positive exponents, I would have to check them all. But because I used Mr. Mahalik super hint, I know that these are not simplified, and that's what it tells us to do. All right, so now on this, we don't have to do the fraction. We can just type it just like we see it, okay? So I'm going to type this in right here as I see it, 8, parentheses 3, raised to the 3/4 power, tab out, parentheses 5, raised to the 11/4 power, 11 divided by 4. Don't worry about it, let the calculator do it. Tab out of it, I'm finished with that exponent. Parentheses 7, raised to the 4th power, tab out. And what do I get? I get 3660080, which is not this. It's not going to be A. But let's make sure we didn't make a mistake. Let's come down here to the very bottom and let's check that. We already know what our answer is. It's this. So I'm going to clear all this out so it's a little clearer. All right, so that's 3. Remember, that's a 3. I messed up. That's 3, parentheses 3, raised to the 3/8 power, 3 divided by 8. I'm finished with that exponent. Tab out. Parentheses 5, raised to the 11/4. Oops. I can get rid of that. 11 divided by 4. So I'm through with that. Tab out, and then parentheses 7. We always put our 357 in parentheses. Please do that. That's just a safeguard. All right, so I do a double check. Do I have 3 times 3 raised to 3/8? Does it look just like that? I press enter, and what do you know? Matchy-matchy. We got that right there. The answer is D. Now, some of you may have noticed something very astute. Back here in the original problem, if I just looked at the 12 and the 4, and in between it is a fraction bar, that means 12 divided by 4. That means I have to have a 3 in my answer. So if I use the super hint of no negative exponents, and I just made a little observation that 12 divided by 4 is 3 and not 8, I could get my answer in about 15 seconds. Now that's for this problem. That's not a guarantee that you're going to be able to do that on all of them. But hey, we take it whenever we can get it. All right, turn it over. Let's finish this thing up. One more with the 357. I want to show you a new keystroke. Remember, in this particular, hey, we don't have X's and Y's. Who cares? Whatever letters they use, we're going to replace each of our first variables with a 3, and whatever is our second variable with a 5. We don't need a 7 because in this problem there are only 2 variables, not 3. By the chance that you have more than 3 variables, and what you're going to do is you're going to do -3, -5, -7. You're going to use the negatives. That's if you have more than 3 variables. I doubt very seriously you're going to have that. All right, so here we go. This becomes 7 raised to the 3. Remember, 3 takes the place of a, 5th power, okay? And it's easier just to do this. 7 raised to the 3/5 power. Okay, we can do that on our calculator, can't we? We need to get, what is this equal to? All right, so here we go. Regular screen, 7 exponent, 3 divided by 5, tab out of it. What's that equal to? Something fairly small, 3.214, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I'm looking for something down here in my answer choices that are the same as 3.214. Okay, so what goes in for A? First variable, there's a 3. Second variable, there's a 5. Now it's important to realize that A is an exponent and B is just a regular number. I know I wish it would have been more distinguished, but hey, that's what it is. So here I go. I'm going to do 7 raised to the 3rd power, tab out of it, divided by my 5. What is that? 68.6. Matchy matchy? Don't think so. Here we go. First variable is a 3, regular old 3, and the second variable is a 5. That's an exponent. The 3 is not an exponent. The 3 is a numerator, the top part of the fraction, and 5 is an exponent. So let's just make that happen. Parentheses 3 divided by 7 raised to the 5th power, tab out of it. I've got something real. This is scientific notation. So this is 1.784 times 10 to the -4th power, which means I move my decimal 4 places, which means that this is 0.001784. Matchy matchy? No. Okay. Now, here's another calculator hint. You haven't seen it before, but it's not that big a deal. The index number is actually this little number in the crevice of the root symbol. You do know, well, I'm telling you right now, you can have more than just square roots. You can have 3rd roots, 4th roots, 5th roots, whatever. So this little number right here that's going to hang out in the little check mark crease is called the index. So that B is the index of this guy, A is the index of this guy. And when we replace, we're replacing what? A was a 3. Be careful, A is a 3 and B is a 5. So in this instance, my index is a 5. And if I replace an A with a 3 and the B with a 5, like I've always been doing, this one has 3 as an index. Don't worry about index, I'll show you what you do. Here we go. We're gonna press the index number first. So we're gonna do C first. You ready? It's not that big a deal. So I'm going to press a 5, okay? And you don't need the parentheses on this, just press a 5. 5, and now press your math button, which is right underneath the green. And you see this thing right here that has an X with this root symbol? We're going to press a 5. It's always the index, math 5. Index, math 5. So I've pressed the math, and now I put the 5. Check that out. See that? Look at that. It put the index right there, and now I just type the rest of the problem, which is 7 raised to the 3rd power. Tab out of your square root. Does it look exactly like that? Well, I don't have the parentheses, but I should have done it, but it doesn't matter because that's a single number. 3.21. 214. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Do I have matchy-matchy? I do. I do. The answer choice is going to be C, and I can even prove it with the last one real fast. As we take a look at this, if I do the index, which is 3, and then press Math 5, and type in 7 raised to the 5th power. I'm going to tab out of all of that, and I get 25 point blah, blah, blah. You can see that the only one that matchy-matchies, the original one, is this.